Right now, as you're listening to this, the money in your wallet is worth less than when you started this sentence. That's not a metaphor, it's mathematics. 1780. Amsterdam, the richest city on earth, watched its currency crumble. 2025 America, we're watching the same script unfold. Different actors, same ending. What if I told you that every empire believes it's different? What if I told you they're always wrong? To understand where we're headed, we need to go back. Not decades, centuries. There's a pattern in history that nobody teaches in schools, but it's there, documented, proven, and right now, we're watching it happen again in real time. If your grocery bill doubled and your paycheck didn't, that's not random. That's not corporate greed alone. It's part of a cycle that's been crushing ordinary people for 2,000 years. The Dutch Republic in 1780 wasn't supposed to collapse. They had everything. They invented modern banking. They created the world's first stock exchange. They controlled global trade routes from Asia to the Americas. Amsterdam was what New York is today, the financial center of the world. Dutch merchants didn't just count money, they printed it, moved it, multiplied it across continents. The guilder was the dollar of its age, trusted, stable, unshakable. But beneath that confidence, something was breaking. 3 warning signs appeared. The first was dismissed, the second was ignored. The third came too late. Let me take you to Amsterdam, 1780. Picture cobblestone streets, lined with warehouses full of spices, silk, and silver. The Dutch East India Company history's first mega-corporation generated returns that made investors wealthy beyond imagination. A merchant's house cost what a laborer earned in 30 years, but you could get a mortgage, credit was everywhere. Sound familiar? Dutch families borrowed against future prosperity. They believed the good times would last forever. They wouldn't. Here's what they didn't see coming. For decades, the Dutch Republic had been financing wars. The Fourth Anglo-Dutch War, conflicts with France, supporting American independence. Wars are expensive, really expensive. The government needed money, so they did what every empire does. They borrowed and borrowed and borrowed more. By 1780, the national debt had exploded to 310 million guilders. That's roughly $25 billion in today's money. Source: The Dutch Republic by Jonathan Israel. Oxford University Press, for a tiny nation of 2 million people. That number was catastrophic. But here's the thing: nobody panicked. Why would they? The Dutch were rich. They'd figure it out. They always had. Warning sign 1: rising debt. Your credit card balance is climbing month after month. Same pattern. Then came the money printing. Well, not literally printing. This was 1780, but the effect was identical. The government issued more bonds, more promissory notes, flooding the market with paper backed by ... hope, faith in Dutch power. Faith that trade would continue, faith that the empire would endure. But faith doesn't stop inflation. By 1781, bread prices started climbing. 5% one month, 8% the next. Workers demanded higher wages. Employers couldn't pay. Credit tightened. Source: Financial History of the Netherlands by Marjolein T. Hart. A baker named Peter van der Meer kept records. Historians found them in Amsterdam archives 2 centuries later. In 1775, a loaf of bread cost 2 stovers. By 1782, that same loaf cost 7 stovers. That's a 250% increase in 7 years. Peter wrote in his ledger, "People look at me with anger, as if I control the grain." Source: Amsterdam City Archives, Van der Meer ledger collection. He didn't control anything. Neither did the farmers. Neither did the merchants. The system was breaking, and nobody knew how to stop it. Warning sign 2: rapid inflation. Your eggs went from $2 to $6 in 3 years. Peter's bread went from 2 to 7 stovers. Same trap, different century. Source: USDA Price Index 2024. Then came the collapse nobody expected. In 1783, the British Navy blockaded Dutch ports. Trade stopped. Ships sat empty in harbors, the warehouses full of exotic goods. Worthless if they can't reach markets. The Dutch East India Company, once worth more than Apple and Microsoft combined, in today's terms, saw its stock price crater. Investors who'd borrowed to buy shares couldn't pay loans. Banks foreclosed. But here's the problem: everyone's broke. Foreclosure doesn't recover money. It just spreads the pain. A widow named Marguerite de Vries had invested her late husband's pension everything into company bonds. Safe bonds, she was told, government-backed, they said. In 1784, those bonds were worth 11 cents on the guilder. Her entire life savings bought 6 months of rent. 6 months, then nothing. She wrote to her sister, "I believed in tomorrow. Tomorrow betrayed me." Source: personal correspondence. Leiden University archives. That's what currency collapse does. Not to governments. Not to the wealthy. They'd already moved money to London, to Paris, to safer harbors. It destroys ordinary people. The baker, the widow, the teacher who saved me for 40 years. You. Warning sign 3. External shock, triggering cascade failure. 2008 had Lehman Brothers. 1783 had the British blockade. The trigger changes, the collapse follows the same script. But here's what makes the Dutch story truly haunting. They saw it coming and convinced themselves it wouldn't happen. In 1780, a pamphlet circulated in Amsterdam titled Warnings of National Decline. It detailed the debt, the inflation, the unsustainable borrowing. People read it, then they went back to business as usual. Why? Because admitting the problem meant confronting an uncomfortable truth. Their entire way of life was built on debt that could never be repaid. Source: Dutch Political Economy 1780 to 1800 by Simon Schama. Sound familiar? We know the national debt is $35 trillion. That's $270,000 for every taxpayer in America. Source: U.S. Treasury Department, October 2024. We know inflation averaged 6.2% from 2022 to 2024, while wages grew 3%. Source: Bureau of Labor Statistics, 2024. We know household debt hit $17.5 trillion. Source: Federal Reserve, Q3 2024. We know, yet we scroll past the numbers. We've got rent to pay, groceries to buy, student loans crushing us. We're too busy surviving to worry about patterns from centuries ago. But the pattern doesn't matter if you notice it. Let me show you something that should terrify you. After the Dutch guilder collapsed, it took 70 years for the Netherlands to recover its economic position. 70 years. 3 generations grew up poorer than their parents. The wealthy families who saw it coming, they moved their money to London. The British pound became the new global currency. Power shifted, and the Dutch, once masters of the financial world, became a secondary player in someone else's game. This pattern didn't end with the Dutch. It repeated and repeated and repeated again. Fast forward to 1923. Germany. The Weimar Republic made the same mistakes, only faster. They printed money to pay war debts. Inflation went from manageable to apocalyptic in 18 months. At the peak, prices doubled every 3 days. A loaf of bread cost 200 billion marks. Source: When Money Dies, by Adam Ferguson. A teacher named Anna Koch carried her monthly salary in a wheelbarrow, literally a wheelbarrow full of cash, to buy groceries. The next day, that same salary bought half the groceries. The day after, 1/4. Within a week, her savings, a lifetime of saving, bought 1 loaf of bread. One source: Weimar Economic Testimonies, German Federal Archives. Your grocery bill jumped 18% in 2 years. Anna's jumped 29,500% in 2 months. Different speeds, same pattern. Source: Bureau of Labor Statistics, CPI 2022 to 2024. Germany's mistake rippled forward. The economic devastation, the destroyed middle class, the desperate population. These conditions created the environment for extremism. We know what happened next. Economic collapse doesn't just destroy wealth. It destroys stability, trust, and social cohesion. It creates power vacuums that get filled by whoever promises simple solutions to complex problems. And the cycle continued. Japan, 1991. After decades of explosive growth, the asset bubble popped. Real estate prices fell 80%. The Nikkei stock index crashed from 39,000 to 15,000. Japanese workers who'd saved in company stocks watched retirement vanish. Source: Bank of Japan historical data. But here's what's different about Japan's story: it didn't end. 30 years later, they're still dealing with deflationary pressure, stagnant wages, and a generation that learned never to trust the system again. They call them the lost decades, plural. Source: IMF Japan Economic Report 2023. Your 401k lost 19% in 2022. Japanese retirees lost 60% and never recovered it. Source: Federal Reserve Investment Survey 2023, then 2008, America's Turn. Lehman Brothers collapsed on September 15, 2008. The global financial system seized up like an engine. Without oil, credit markets froze. Banks stopped lending to each other. The crisis that started with subprime mortgage risky loans to people who couldn't afford them metastasized into a global catastrophe. 9 million Americans lost their homes to foreclosure. Source: Federal Reserve Housing Report 2012, unemployment hit 10%. Retirement accounts evaporated overnight. A man named Robert Chen, an engineer in Ohio, lost his job in October 2008. He had $87,000 in savings, 15 years of careful saving. By 2010, that was gone. Mortgage payments on a house now worth half what he paid. Medical bills from a broken system, his daughter's college tuition, he told a reporter. "I did everything right. I followed every rule. And I still lost." Source: NPR Economic Crisis Interviews, 2010, the difference between 2008 and 1780. Speed and scale. The Dutch collapse took a decade. 2008 took 12 months. But the human cost, identical. Savings destroyed. Futures canceled. Trust shattered. Your student loan debt averaged $37,000 in 2024. In 2008, it was $23,000. That's a 61% increase, while wages grew 11%. Source: Federal Student Aid 2024, Bureau of Labor Statistics wage data. You're earning slightly more. Your debt is growing much faster. The gap widens every year. And here's what keeps me awake at night: we're watching it happen again. But this time, we have the historical playbook. We know the warnings. We see the debt. We feel the inflation. We understand the pattern. And we're still following the script. Let's talk about right now. Your life, your wallet, your kitchen table is covered in bills. As of October 2024, the U.S. national debt sits at $35 trillion. That number is so large, it's almost meaningless. So let me make it personal. That's $270,000 per taxpayer. Source: U.S. Treasury Department. If you tried to pay your share by putting aside 10% of the median household income, $75,000, it would take you 94 years. You'd be paying until the year 2118. Your grandchildren would inherit your debt obligation. But it gets worse. That debt is growing by $1 trillion every 100 days. By the time you've finished watching this video, it will have increased by roughly $5 million. Source: Congressional Budget Office Debt Projection 2024. But we're America, you might say. We're different. That's what the Dutch said. They invented modern finance. That's what the Germans said. They had the world's most advanced economy. That's what the Japanese said. They had technological superiority. Every empire believes it's the exception. None of them are. Let's connect this to something you touched today. Your grocery receipt? In 2020, a dozen eggs cost $1.47. Today, they're $4.82. Source: USDA Egg Price Index 2024. That's a 228% increase in 4 years. Your paycheck increased in that same period. If you're lucky, maybe 12%. Source: Bureau of Labor Statistics Average Wage Growth 2020 to 2024. The gap between what you earn and what things cost, that gap is the invisible tax of currency. Debasement? It's not dramatic like Weimar's wheelbarrows. It's slow, quiet, relentless. Your rent tells the same story. The average rent for a 2-bedroom apartment in major U.S. cities climbed from $1,436 in 2022, $1,950 in 2024. Source: Zillow Rent Index 2024. That's $6,168 more per year for the same apartment. The same for walls? Nothing improved. You're just paying more for less purchasing power. Healthcare. Insurance premiums increased 31%, while coverage decreased. Source: Kaiser Family Foundation Health Insurance Report 2024. You're paying more and getting less. That's not inflation. That's currency collapsing in slow motion. Student loans? The big one. Total student debt in America now exceeds $1.7 trillion. Source: Federal Reserve Consumer Credit Report 2024. The average monthly payment is $503. The median rent is $1,950. Add them together, $2,453. The median entry-level salary after college, about $4,200 per month after taxes. Source: National Association of Colleges and Employers, 2024. You're paying 58% of your income on just rent and loans before groceries, gas, healthcare, or saving a single dollar. The Dutch had the same triple income, going to service debt with nothing left to build wealth. And here's the newest twist the digital currency promise. Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies promised freedom from government-controlled inflation. Decentralization would save us. Remember, 2021, Bitcoin hit $69,000. People mortgaged houses to buy in. Then 2022 happened. Bitcoin crashed to $16,000. Source: CoinMarketCap historical data. That's a 77% loss. FTX, one of the largest crypto exchanges, collapsed in November 2022. $32 billion in customer funds vanished. Source: FTX bankruptcy filings 2022. The pattern repeated itself even in blockchain form. New technology, same human psychology, same greed, same crash. Now, let me ask you something. When did you first notice? Was it the grocery store when eggs hit $6 and you had to put them back? Was it the gas pump when filling your tank cost $70 instead of $40? Was it your rent increase noticed $200 more per month with no explanation? Or was it looking at your savings account and realizing that the $10,000 you saved in 2020 now has the purchasing power of $8,200? Source: CPI Inflation Calculator, Bureau of Labor Statistics, 2024. You noticed, we all noticed, but we convinced ourselves it's temporary. Supply chain issues, the pandemic, corporate greed. These are symptoms, not causes. The cause is the same one that broke the Dutch guilder, the German mark. The Japanese, yen's purchasing power, spending more than you produce, borrowing from tomorrow to pay for today, and hoping the music never stops. But the music always stops. Here's the part that should haunt you. The Dutch saw their collapse coming for a decade. They had time to change course. They didn't. Germany saw hyperinflation building for 18 months. They could have stopped printing money. They didn't. Japan watched the asset bubble inflate for years. They could have cooled the market. They didn't. America watched the housing bubble grow from 2002 to 2008. Economists warned. Regulators knew. We didn't stop. We just hoped we'd cash out before the crash. And here we are again. Debt at record levels. Inflation eating purchasing power. Assets inflated beyond rational valuation. And we're hoping someone else will fix it. Someone will figure it out. Someone always does, except historically, they don't. Not in time to save the people who need saving most. 5 empires, 5 collapses. Same 3 warning signs every single time. Rising debt that becomes unsustainable. Inflation that starts slow, then accelerates. External shock that triggers the cascade. The Dutch had the British blockade. Germany had war reparations. Japan had monetary policy mistakes. America in 2008 had subprime mortgages. What will trigger the next one? Maybe it already has, and we just don't know it yet. That's how these things work. The crisis is obvious in hindsight, invisible in real. I'm not saying the dollar will collapse tomorrow. I'm not predicting wheelbarrows of cash or bread costing $1 trillion. That's not how modern collapses work. They're slower, more bureaucratic, more managed. But the effect on you, on your household, on your ability to build a life, that's the same. Your money loses value. Your savings erode. Your future gets harder to afford. And the people at the top, the ones who know the pattern, who've studied history, they've already moved their wealth to assets that survive currency. Debasement, real estate, gold, stocks, foreign currencies, they're hedged. You're exposed. The pattern is clear. The timeline is shorter with each iteration. The Dutch took 70 years to recover. Germany recovered faster, but at horrific cost. Japan still hasn't fully recovered after 30 years. America bounced back from 2008 in a decade, but that recovery mostly benefited the top 20%. Source: Federal Reserve Wealth Distribution Report 2020, if the pattern continues. The next collapse will be faster and harder to escape. So here's what I keep thinking about. Every generation believes it's learned from the past. Every generation believes technology or policy or innovation has solved the fundamental problem. But the fundamental problem isn't technology, it's human nature. We want to consume more than we produce. We want to borrow from the future. We want to believe tomorrow will fix today's mistakes. And when we're proven wrong, we're shocked. How could this happen? We had experts, we had systems, we had confidence. The Dutch had all that too. So here's my question for you, and I really want you to think about this, maybe even pause and reflect. If history is a pattern, and we're watching it repeat, what's the one thing you're doing differently? Not financially, I can't give advice there, but mentally, how are you preparing for a world where your money might be worth less, where your purchasing power continues to erode, where the stability we take for granted proves temporary? Are you building skills that survive economic chaos? Are you creating networks stronger than currency? Are you learning the lessons that 5 fallen empires tried to teach us? Or are you like the Dutch merchant in 1780, hoping the good times last just long enough for you to retire? Because that merchant lost everything. His hope didn't save him, his confidence didn't protect him, and his belief that this time is different proved catastrophically wrong. This isn't about fear, it's about awareness. History gives us one advantage over every previous generation. We can see the pattern. We know what happens next if we follow the script. The question is whether knowledge changes behavior or whether we're doomed to repeat every lesson our ancestors already paid for. 5 empires, same pattern, same warnings, same ending. The only variable is timing. And if you're waiting for someone to announce the crisis, remember by the time everyone knows, it's already too late. The Dutch families who saved themselves moved their money 2 years before the collapse. The Germans who survived hyperinflation had already converted to foreign currency or real assets before the worst hit. The Americans who came out of 2008 ahead were positioned before Lehman fell. The people who see what's coming and act aren't panicking, they're just reading history. And right now, history is screaming a warning we keep ignoring. So let me ask you the question I can't stop thinking about. The one that haunts me when I look at these patterns. Are we the generation that breaks the cycle? Or are we just the next chapter in a very old book? Because your grocery bill is telling a story. Your rent increase is writing a chapter. Your student loan debt is building toward a climax. The only question is how this story ends, and whether you're prepared for the ending everyone else pretended wouldn't come. So here's what I need to know from you. When did you first notice things changing? Was it the grocery store, the gas pump, your rent, student loan payments that never seem to shrink? Drop a comment below. I read every single one because your story matters. Your experience is part of this pattern. And maybe, just maybe, if enough of us see what's happening, we write a different ending than the Dutch, the Germans, the Japanese, and the Americans of 2008. And in the next video, we'll look at the one decision no empire has ever made the choice that could break the pattern entirely. It's controversial, it's radical, and it might be our only option. You won't want to miss it. Thank you for watching this all the way through. If this made you see money differently, if it connected dots you'd never connected before, hit subscribe. More patterns, more history, more truth, every single week. I'll see you in the next one.